What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name's Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Shawn Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in Long Island, New York. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Hawksoft, your family-owned and operated agency management system serving independent agencies with teams from 1 to 300 plus employees. Rob, an agency owner out in New York, is a customer of Hawksoft because they're sincere, they didn't sell, and Hawksoft runs their business how he runs his agency. We may know who that Rob is.
Maybe.
We may know.
Might ring with a Bowen.
Listen, we're jumping right into this because this has been a long time coming. We have Charles Specht on the show today, who is the owner of Permissions Network Insurance Agency. Charles, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We appreciate you spending a little time with us today. How are you doing?
Absolutely, Steve and Shawn. Great to be here. Been listening to you guys' podcast for a while. Been watching you guys from afar. So I'm just loving what you guys are doing. Glad to be able to talk with you today.
Let's start with, we don't want to spend too much time on this because we have a lot of good topics we want to get to, but tell us just how you got into insurance and what your everyday is like, and then we'll talk about the topics we want to hit.
All right. So kind of by accident, really. I mean, I think unless you were born into an insurance family, that's how it happens. But I just, as we were talking right before we hit record, I was a substitute teacher looking to be a high school teacher so that I could coach baseball. That was kind of the goal, right? But then I was like, I got to pay some bills. I'm married here. Mortgage is coming up. And somebody said, I think you would do well in the insurance business. So he got me an interview with the owner of the agency. This was back in the year 2000. And it was kind of a smaller location inside of a bigger agency. So name of the agency was Interwest Insurance, based out of Sacramento, California. Great agency, still around today. But it was a smaller little kind of sub shop inside Merced area, and just kind of got into it. And it's one of those things where you'd never think about insurance until you get into it and you're like, man, this might be one of the best kept secrets in the entire business world. And I've been into
That's
it
awesome.
ever since.
And then from there, you were a producer at that location?
Yep. So I got into the business right off the bat as
Okay.
a commercial insurance producer. And so I've never done personal lines in my life. I mean, I couldn't tell you what an HO73 is, right? I mean, I have no idea what any of that stuff is. So I've always done commercial. I've done construction and some other things, but commercial insurance has always been the thing. I was at that agency for about a year and a half. They were at about halfway through that first year. They were sort of like getting ready to close that location. They were going to get rid of the salespeople, just kind of make it a servicing department. And so I started looking around, ended up interviewing at a number of different places, but ended up at Arthur J. Gallagher. And it was the best move at the time. And I would never change anything how that worked out. Although I would probably never work for a large agency ever again, just because it's great, but there's so much red tape in it. And so I learned everything I need to know. And then I can take that to a small, medium-sized agency, and really kind of help them sort of get the same sort of results that a bigger broker does without all of the red tape that goes along with it. So I served as a producer for about another 8.5 years at Arthur J. Gallagher, writing construction, and did pretty well. So I'm very happy with how that turned out before I ended into consulting.
Nice.
Around
And the
2010.
consulting is specific around commercial lines insurance, right?
It is, yeah. So I do two things from a consulting side. So one part is, and it's mostly construction owners, will hire me to manage their insurance renewal process. So I don't ever sell insurance, haven't sold insurance since 2010, but I'm hired by them to manage it. And these are usually construction accounts that are paying like $150,000, $200,000, $300,000 of premium and above. And so I work with their agent, and I might bring in a couple of other agents if I know there's like some other markets out there that are needed. I work on the renewal. I negotiate on their behalf so that they can just focus on doing construction. And I work on that sort of renegotiation to drive down the cost and get the best product possible. That's one part. And the other part is maybe what you guys are a little bit more familiar with is that I work with insurance agents and agencies to help them build their book of business or their agency. And I predominantly do it in commercial P&C as well as commercial EB.
Got it. Okay. So for a majority of our audience is scratch agents. I would say, and a majority of them as well, are looking to get more into commercial. Where do you think?
I would say, come on over to the dark side. It's good over here. Let's go. This is the place to be.
What would you say is like the best place to start? Would it be business planning, picking a niche?
Yeah. So we're talking probably single man, single woman shops, right? So if I was to start an agency today, and I say very often, like I sometimes think about it 3 or 4 times a week, right? But then I end up like, I don't really like what I'm doing. So, but you can do what you want to do, and write certain accounts because you're the agency owner, so you get to keep 100%. If you were like a producer at an agency, I don't think this would be my answer. It'd be different. But if I was starting a scratch agency, kind of focusing on commercial or trying to get into more commercial, I would likely myself focus first on trying to pick out what I was going to go after and then figure out the carriers that I have access to or the carriers that I need. And likely, whatever carriers you have access to on the commercial right now, they're probably pretty competitive at 2 or
Yeah.
3 things, like really competitive at 2 or 3 things. So you might not need more carriers. What you really need to do is sort of Excel spreadsheet, contact the sales reps, the underwriters, and figure out where exactly are they super competitive right now. What coverages, what industries, and then you can start to highlight and see where the overlap is at. And that's that overlap, frankly, where the pot of gold is at. And if you have access to, say, one carrier that is the most competitive carrier, there's no reason why you can't be very successful at it. If you have the number one and number two most competitive carriers in your space, you can be rich, literally. It's just a matter of picking you. And once you kind of really focus on your brand and what your corporate company is going to focus on, and you put together like your tagline and all of that based upon the micro niche, you should absolutely dominate your space. There's no reason why you can't. So, I mean, I have some clients, like I have one guy who does axe throwing companies. Like you go to those places and they throw axes. Like there's not too many of them, but guess who writes them? Right? Somebody has to. And I try to tell people when they're trying to figure out like, my agency, what should we focus on? And I think, okay, well, let's figure out the size of the account that you want. Do you want to go after stuff that's $10,000 of premium? If you're only gonna do 5,000, just stay in personal lines then. But if you're really going to go to commercial, then let's step it up. I mean, you can write stuff that's $50, $60, $100,000 of premium and make, $5,000 to $15,000 of commission on something. And if you really focus on the right stuff, you only need to get about 15 people on planet Earth to decide they want to do business with you. That's it. So I try to tell people typically, like, if we're going after stuff that's $15,000, $20,000, of commission, then hey, let's just work on getting 50 clients in the next, say, 3.5 years so you can get to $1 million of commission. Like, why not that? We don't have to be all things to all people. In fact, I think you're going to be less successful as an insurance agency owner if you're trying to be all things to all people. The more that you sort of exclude, the more that you will attract the people.
I gotta say,
Charles, why do you have to make it sound
hold on,
so easy?
T5. I gotta say this. It sounds, and I'm not saying I'm doing it right. It sounds crazy to think I can have an agency with 30 clients making $1 million. Listen, I know it's possible, but Stephen, would you agree? It sounds wild.
Yeah, but here's I want to try to get in the listener's head because I feel like I can relate to a lot what a lot of people might be thinking. And so, Charles, as someone who was coming up on 10 years in the industry, started at my family's agency for 6 years, went scratch for the last 4. I started primarily as a personal lines guy and then started having more commercial opportunities. Now our book, and I'm just putting myself in the hot seat so you can answer this properly. Now our book is about 60% personal, 40 commercial. But to your point, we don't really have a niche. Like we have a little bit of a habitational, but it's kind of just from relationships that I've had. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of the overthinking in this is like the product knowledge of like, well, these are big accounts and big numbers. So I don't know enough about it to go after it. And that could be a lot of what those roadblocks are in our minds as scratch agency owners, young producers, whatever. What is your biggest feedback, takeaways, response to that as far as the product knowledge? So like, hey, I want to go after axe throwing places because my cousin owns 10 of them and it's a good place to start and I can get those accounts. I have the markets. Great. Where do I start?
Yeah. So I would say it's 100% mindset. Like you're never going to know everything there is to know about axe throwing companies. Right. Or like even just like what does Chubb want to write or Hartford or Travelers? You're never going to know their product inside and out. It changes. The carriers go in and out of wanting to be competitive. So they might be the right thing this year, but not the right thing next year. You can know the basics, and knowing the basics, you are about 20 times ahead of the insurance buyer. Okay. Just by you like knowing the very basics. like when I was joking around that I don't even know like what an HO73 is, like, because there isn't one, right? So like that's how much I know about personal lines. I'm licensed for it. I've never written it, never plan to. Couldn't tell you a thing about it, but I know that I could probably run circles around in typical insured,
Right.
doing the basics of it. But I really have no clue on what personalizing does. And I think that the same thing is the real answer for commercial insurance as well, is that you will know enough to be running circles around your insurance buyer. And I can almost guarantee you, unless they have like some sort of gaping coverage in their policy, that's just not coverage, their exposure, they're not going to ask you questions about product because they don't know it and they don't want to seem stupid.
I agree with that 100%. I'm seeing it more and more. A lot of it is relationship driven, right? I mean, of course, pricing, if I'm a captive and I come in and I'm 30% below and no one else has access to the market, it happens. But, outside of that, the relationship is
it's a relationship business at the end of the day. I often say that prospecting is a numbers game, but selling insurance is a relationship game.
You might have been the one that said this, and I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I'm pretty sure you said it. 90 something percent of the time, the current broker retains 92? The account. If that doesn't tell you it's a relationship business,
92%.
I don't know what.
Yeah. I mean, I suspect that it's got it. Like, think about your own agencies, guys, your personal lines, even, for example. You don't have to go on record here or anything like that, but just think about like, how often do you renew your clientele?
90+%. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Probably more than 92%, might be 96, 97. Commercial insurance, it's no different. 92%. Now that actually encompasses all commercial insurance, small business, servicing centers, a one-man shop, large agencies, like it encompasses all of that. But I mean, if you're at 92%, there's like something wrong, unless you just had like a bad year where somebody went out of business and, like just some merger and acquisition, stuff like that. But I mean, there's going to be times where you renew 97, 98, 100%. That's the beauty of this industry. So it 100% is about relationship. Price is always on the table, always. But as the incumbent producer who controls the business, you now have control over the account. You have control over the relationship. You have control over the marketplace. That's
yes,
why you
I believe in commercial, it is harder to drive that wedge into the relationship. So I feel like a good segue from this would be like, what is your advice to agents who want to get in commercial, but they know, hey, this person, a lot of insureds have great relationships with their current broker. How can I drive a wedge?
I mean, when it comes down to pre-qualifying an insurance buyer, an insured, I would say that, I don't know, maybe 15, 20% of the time you meet with a prospect, they really have no intention of doing business with you. Right? So let's just call it 1 out of 5. Okay. 1 out of 5, frankly, are just going to use you as the honesty cop. So we have to become well-versed at pre-qualifying the account and walking away before we end up wasting too much time. Right. Then, so that leaves us then with, 4 out of 5 are potentially willing to work with us. And I would say that maybe 1 to 2 out of those 4 have a better relationship with their agent than not. Okay. And it's always a spectrum. It's not like our agency's great or relationship's great. It's like, it's on a line of spectrum. The other 2 then are like, you know what? I really don't have a great relationship. There's no real loyalty there. They're my agent. They placed the policy, but like they haven't really done anything for me. I haven't even talked to them in 6 months. And like, there's that. There is so much low hanging fruit when it comes to what I would call, say, sub $75,000 of premium and below for commercial insurance. There's a lot of low hanging fruit. I mean, it's pretty easy to find your 15, right? When you're going after that sort of account. In regards to your specific question about how to drive that wedge into the relationship, most insurance buyers on a commercial side, and frankly, it's not that far from personal lines, because even commercial, it's like you're dealing with a person, right? So it's like it's dealing with one relationship. Most people don't know if they're getting good service or not. Like, they're just getting service. They don't know how to define good service, especially if they've been with their agent for several years. Like, they just only know what they've been getting. So then it's our responsibility as a competing insurance agent to come in and uncover those problems, right? And make them feel the pain of it. It's like, yeah, your agent hasn't reached out to you in 6 months. A lot has changed in the industry in the last 6 months, right? And so we would want to make sure we go over your property values with you to make sure that you're not underinsured or paying too much for insurance at this time. I mean, heaven forbid that you have a claim and now you're underinsured and co-insurance comes into play, and we would make sure that doesn't happen on your behalf, right? So like you can start to uncover problems and create the wedge based upon just looking at some basic problems that we have just as being an insurance producer
Yeah,
on the
I agree
difficulties
with
of
that.
it. But I would say you need about 5 to 7 sort of open-ended questions specific to a problem whenever you're talking to somebody so that they can see that, yeah, I guess I have a problem. And then what I kind of find to be like maybe the producers that do a better job of like getting the insured to see, I need to make a switch soon, is they don't just uncover the problem, they really know how to put their thumb in the wound, like, and make them feel the pain. It's like, yeah, you're over the last 3 years, your agent really hasn't been renegotiating the quotes they receive on your behalf. They're just, showing them to you, then you decide you want to bind one and you bind one. Like typically my clients, and let me just kind of put a parenthesis around this. As a consultant, I average 11% discount reduction in premium for standard market, and I average 17% on surplus lines. There's a lot there that when you go back and renegotiate. So back to the conversation. Your agent's just showing up with quotes and hasn't really renegotiated on you. So you're likely paying about 11% more for that policy than you could have if they would have just gone back and asked the underwriter, do you have a little bit more room? And that would be the same thing maybe on the auto and the property and your umbrella. And not only on this year, but like on the year before that and the year before that. Like it's essentially a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars that you've been paying more for insurance than you have to, because most agents out there don't have any kind of a renegotiation structure as a part of their process. What we've done on your behalf for our clients is that we know how to negotiate with the underwriters. We know which buttons to push. We understand their credit and debit structure so that we can get your quotes lowered, so that when you bind coverage with us as your agent, you'll be paying less for that same policy than you would with almost any other insurance agent in the state. And it's just like unfair that most agents don't know how to do this. It's unfair that you have to spend that money every single month just paying more than you really need to. It's unfair. That's why our clients are very happy when we do this on their behalf. So you uncover the pain, you stick your thumb and like, this is just unfair that you have to do this. This is a lot of money and you don't need to do that. And then you kind of have to tie the pain back to the cause. That's
I
how
love
you put
that.
the wedge in there.
I added the 5 to 6 wedge questions for the industry that we go after specifically, the open-ended questions. It makes a huge difference. Now there's times where, oh, it's great. Yeah, that's great. Nope. Yep. We do that. Yep. Oh, yep. No audit problems. Yep.
Sure.
Yes. COIs in an hour. Yep. Everything's good.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Okay. So like, I don't know. I don't like to go shopping. My wife shops. I'll buy stuff off the internet, stuff like that, but I don't go to the mall. I don't hang out because people are going to come up to me and ask me, sir, can I help you with anything? Now, when you guys go shopping and somebody comes up and says, hey, sir, can I help you with anything?
I'm
what
good.
do you typically say?
I'm
good. Just looking, right? That's all that they're doing right then.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally all they're doing. They are sort of deflecting the hard question in the moment. They're thinking about it. They're just telling you something that, it's sort of like, I got an agent. We're good. Now's not a good time. Like,
Just
these
get
are
me
not
quotes.
legitimate excuses. These are objections we hear, but people haven't thought about them yet. So that's okay. I don't mind when they're saying, hey, everything's good. That's good. Because the more that I develop the relationship, we're going to uncover the pains where they finally agree with me. Like, you're right. Like, I should be getting something better and I'm not. I should have somebody that's really looking at my property values, and they're not. So they might not get it like right off the bat, but if we keep kind of pushing with good tact, professionalism, you're gonna get there.
Now, I would like to ask you, so we get them on the phone, we drive the wedge. Maybe we should rewind for a second. How do we get the opportunities?
Okay.
What have you found with the most successful commercial producers? How are they finding the opportunities? Is it mainly relationship driven? Is it cold calls and a nice mix of both?
There is, and this is my totally political answer here, there is no perfect answer. There is the perfect answer for each person and each micro niche. So for example, prior to insurance, I worked at a debt collection company. So I would make 200 phone calls a day. So I came into the insurance business so far ahead of everybody else who's doing cold calls. Like, I just knew how to do it. So like, I went that way and I had a lot of success. I talk to some clients like who hire me to help them, and like they might be the worst person on the phone that I've ever heard in my life. So like they're just not good enough to make appointments. They come across as awkward. They don't know what to say. They can't get past the gatekeeper. So each person's different. Some might be really good at email. Some might be great telephone calls. I have one client. She does walk-in visits. She just goes to business owners' locations, just does walk-ins. She averages about 2, maybe 3 broker of record letters a week right now. On $20,000 to $70,000 premium accounts, just keeps walking in, says hello, shakes their hand. You know what? They haven't seen their agent 6 months, 2 years, whatever it is. It's just been auto renewed. She's just killing it in that way. She's so busy right now processing BORs and trying to get the apps together. Like she's just doing it that way because that's her best way to prospect. Now, remind me, what is your micro niche?
Painting.
Painters?
Yep, painting contractors.
Painting. Okay. So so it's a construction account. Every industry is different. Manufacturing, many times, like if they have security, it's not going to work for a walk-in visit, right? So like there are some companies or industries that are just not conducive to a particular way of prospecting. Contractors, it can work really well, so like it just sort of depends. I like to say like a farmer would never do business with me because we just don't click. Like I'm just not going to walk your farm. Like I'm just not going to do it. And they don't hang out on LinkedIn. Like they're not there. So if you want to use social media and LinkedIn, that's not the right type of niche. So there's not a right or wrong answer, but there is a right or wrong answer for each person and the type of micro niche that you have, what you're going after. If you're really struggling with like, man, you're only making telephone calls and you just can't get past gatekeepers, then I just say either figure it out or pick something else. Like you don't have to keep hitting your head against the wall. Find something that works. I have a lot of clients who are writing, let's just call it like say 150 to say 350,000 of commission every year. And they're only writing business outside of their state. They're not even focused on where they're at. So everything is being done virtually, by telephone, Zoom, and email. That's basically it. They never go and see them. So there's a lot of ways that you can prospect, and the size of the account does not matter. Getting back to what Stephen was saying, it's like literally 100% in our minds. Can I explain to you, maybe give you a quick story on it? Like,
I just want to repeat something you said for the listeners that I think is huge, is the point of it depends on what you're going after. Like the farmer example that you used there. I know a guy up here locally, all he does is farms. The guy crushes it, makes a ton of money. And same thing. He helped this farm and they told their neighbor, and like that's the way. And he just walks around the farm. He's, he grew up on a farm. He's the family guy. He wears a flannel every day. But to your point, they're not in LinkedIn. Like, don't put your 3-piece suit on and walk on the farm, but I think that's a huge point to consider when you talk, Shawn, about your
meta
prospecting.
I can't do meta ads for farmers. No.
Right.
Can't do it, man. They're not watching.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt you. I just thought that's a huge point about meeting where they want to be met. I think that's something that we overthink too.
Yeah. I want to just, if I can, hover on this issue of mindset for a moment, because these are, agency owners who are like, did I make a foolish move, like becoming an agency owner? Or like, they're trying to figure out how to make this thing work, right? Just like we all are. So I really do feel that nearly 100% of certainly prospecting and selling insurance, if I just put it that way, is mindset. It's not product knowledge. The carriers kind of have a lot of that figured out. Yes, you got to do some due diligence once she gets the quotes, kind of review it and so forth, but it literally is mindset. So when I worked at my first agency, I just did the same stuff everybody else in the agency did because I didn't know anything. I was 24 years old and just didn't know anything about insurance. And so I just did what they did. And they all did small contractors. And by small contractors, I mean, like I was probably averaging around $3,000 of commission, all the policies combined. So general liability, work comp, your auto, your property, tools, umbrella, 3,000. But I got like 35 clients in the first year just because I was like prospecting like a machine and I had 40 hours a week to prospect. So I wrote a bunch of accounts. But then when I realized I needed to make a switch to a different agency and I ended up at Gallagher, like the first week that after I got there, moved into my office and the branch manager comes over and he's like, Charles, just want to talk to you. It's like, all right, let's do this. Let's have a chat. And he said, we brought you on because we liked your effort, but we actually don't pay producers for the size of the accounts that you were writing. In fact, it has to be at least $5,000 of commission for us to even pay you on it. But if you're writing, say, $10,000 commission accounts, you probably won't be here very long. Like that was the gist of the conversation. I was like, wow, thanks, man. Appreciate being here.
Get to work.
I'm probably going to last about another 2 or 3 weeks, right? I realized they made a mistake. Because again, I was still like a year and a half into the whole business, and I only knew a little bit about construction. And so I was like, gosh, like I haven't really written accounts that size. Like, why would they want to buy from me? I'm 24 years old. I don't even know what I'm doing. So I basically just said, okay, look, they're probably going to fire me, but I'm just going to figure this out, give it my best shot and see what happens. So I took about 2 weeks trying to figure out what I was going to go after and so forth. And I found out, gosh, I basically have the same carriers here at this Alphabet shop as I did at the other one. They write the same stuff that at least that I'm used to writing. And actually some of them were the exact same underwriters. Like I just was meeting with the same people. And so I said, I just need to get different prospects though, a different size of accounts. And so I said, the first policy that I write for a contractor is going to have to be at least $20,000 of commission or I can't work on it. And I thought, this ain't ever going to work, but this is what I'm going to give a shot. It's not going to work, but let's do it. So I just put together an entirely different prospect list, same types of trades I was going to go after, basically same underwriters, same carriers. And I only wrote 15 clients in that second year, which was my first year at Gallagher, but they averaged $26,000 of commission. The biggest lesson I ever learned in business was that the size of the account is literally 100% in our own heads on what's big. I think it was Steven that kind of mentioned like, oh, a big account, like it's a subjective number. Big for somebody used to get it going after like a $10,000 premium account is a $30,000 premium account. Big for some people is $700,000. Like I know one agent, she's at Gallagher. Her book of business now is $15 million of commission. That's just hers, $15 million. Wow. And basically what she does now is property for large restaurant franchises all around the world. But when she started out, when she was a teenager, she started out in the mailroom and then just eventually became a producer, wrote small little bops, eventually decided to level up, wrote a little bigger stuff and then bigger stuff and then bigger stuff. And now she like writes about $1 million a year and basically just doesn't do it unless it's about 200,000 of commission in the first year. Like that's thinking big.
So
right?
Charles,
like
you're saying there's a chance. You're saying there's a chance.
Gives you a chance, man. So like, I would just ask you guys, like, think about it. What would your agency look like right now if you might have just multiplied the types of accounts that you were going after by, let's just call it 5? Mm-hmm. How much would your agency have right now if you would have just said, you know what, there's really no difference in what I can write as my agency from that perspective. Like it's not that much difference between say a $20,000 premium account and an $80,000 premium account. Okay, multiply by 4. Same loss runs, same underwriter, same carrier, same kind of buyer mindset. Meet with one person, they make a decision. There's no difference. It's just what did we tolerate when we were doing our prospecting? When we have prospects that are one size, you're basically going to write that size. If you just delete that prospect list and just say $80,000 premium accounts is what I'm focusing on, guess what you're going to write? You're going to write about the same number of accounts, and that's where your agency will be. So it is we are our worst enemy.
I agree with that.
When it comes to growth. We literally are. I am my worst enemy.
I think part of the
as well.
Mental problem too is when you start a scratch agency and you are spread thin because you're taking a big leap of faith. You want to get revenue in the door at all costs quickly. So you're just willing to write what's easy and write what brings money in the door because you're trying to feed the family. But the hidden problem in that you don't see right away is that over the long term, now you're gonna have a bit of a generalist agency. But it all depends what you want.
So let's look at it at layers, because I think that you hit the nail on the head. Like when you first start out and you're trying to build this thing, like I gotta get some premium through the doors here so I can make some money. So I totally 100% get that. I would say then, for a new agency owner, the first 6 to 12 months are what I would just call the foundation. I would not write tiny accounts because every time you're focused on something super small, you're not using your time to go after some of the bigger stuff. You'd be better off writing one decent account than working on 40 little bitty teeny tiny things. I mean, it's the same amount of time. So there is a sense in which you need to have a cutoff. Anything below this, we don't write. That's for Steven's agency, and that's not for Shawn's, right? So like somebody else is going to write that, but not you. But that first 6 to 9, 12 months, I would say you kind of look at a certain size of account that you want to write and just go after it. I would micro niche right off the bat, right from day one. I know one agency, they have about, I think it's close to about 13,000 different landscape clients right now. Their name is Landscape Contractors Insurance Services. Can you guess what they write? They write landscapers. That's all that they write.
Yeah.
So
That's
it can be done really, really efficiently.
Stephen, we've talked about it, but that is really such a, I don't know why, maybe it's a mental thing. It is such a hard thing to put that minimum in place. I don't know what it is. Stephen, do you agree with that? It's just like
it is.
It's just like, oh, hey, I'm not going to write anything under 1,000 in revenue moving forward. Like, it's just, man, I got to tell people no. You know?
Yeah, I do agree, and Charles will be able to help with this. I think it has a lot to do of like what was your background, where'd you come from with your agency before you start, like, because do you want to, like, do you have that North Star right away where you're like, I'm working on painters, I'm not working on anything under 2,500 in revenue, that's what I'm doing? Or did you come from a generalist agency? Did you come from the small mom and pop? Did you whatever, where it was always the motto of, oh, I'm gonna help everybody, and this is only $1,000 bot, but I know Johnny and I'm gonna help his son out, whatever. I think I do agree, it's hard. And
yeah, that's okay. Here's the thing is you'll never turn your back on good business when it comes through the door. So like, let's say you're only doing painters. Well, you know what? If like, a concrete guy comes through the door, yeah, I'm going to write that too. You know what? Because it's good business and they want to write it with me. I'm not going to write, somebody who wants to start a little upholstery business out of their bedroom. Like that's not going to be the thing I focus on because it's just not for me. But we literally only have 40, maybe 50 hours, whatever it is, out of a week. And because you're the agency owner who's wearing now 17 hats, you don't have all that time to prospect. You only have a limited amount of time to prospect. So we might as well prospect where you're going to get the biggest ROI.
100%.
You can still have on your website, we write lots of different industries with a primary focus on painting contractors. Like I can write all kinds of construction, but I basically spend my time prospecting on painting contractors. When others come through the door, we will write that. But I only have so much time, and so I might as well get the best ROI.
That makes sense.
After all said and done. It's a lot easier to get signed broker record letters when they see you as being in their industry. That's micro niche.
Yeah. Charles, I've been trying to figure out for the last 10 minutes how to position this question, so I'm going to start babbling, and I'm sure you'll pick it up. But from what you mentioned about the one side of your consulting where you'll be hired by the insured to help with their renewals and help with their insurance program and all that, past the basics of what we talked about, those discovery questions, those, pre-qualifying, all that, like, you as the consultant that's hired on behalf of the insured, what is the key things that you're looking for in that agent that is representing the insured and writing that business?
So there might be 15 different things, but the first thing is, if I'm going to give them a shot, they have to kind of know my client's business, or at least have a pretty good feel for what my client's business is. And if they don't, I can help to educate them a little bit, but that's not what I'm hired to do. So because I usually will, whenever I'm hired, I will have a Zoom conversation or at least a telephone conversation with the current agent.
Oh, they must love that.
Interviewing him or her to see like, does this person, they all love it. Yeah. They're like 100% in love with Charles. Yeah. None of the insurance agents ever are happy with it. It is what it is. Okay. It is what it is. But like, I need to find out, do you really know my client's business? Because if you don't, then maybe you don't have the carriers that are needed. So I kind of like find out how many do they write and how many does their agency write. Then I want to find out, I'll usually ask them like, what are the top 3 insurance carriers that are most competitive right now for the workers' compensation for my client? And if they don't know,
the one that they're with, of course.
Always that, right? I put them with them this last June. But that's going to be a start. The next thing that I typically will ask them is I want to see the proposal that you showed to the insured last year. And I'm looking for basically kind of like one main thing initially. I want to see the marketing summary in the proposal. And I want to see how many carriers you went to. And I want to see if you only showed one quote, why'd you do that? Why didn't you show multiple options? Do you have, indications written down there? And then here's kind of a major sticking point for me is that if you list carriers that you kind of went to and you like never got anything from them, didn't get a quote, didn't get a declination, didn't get anything, this is my sort of thought to them is that not only are you not going to get access to that carrier this year, because if they don't even trust you enough to at least just decline your weak submission, like if they don't even, have that much respect for you to decline it, why would I give it to you again? Right. And like, why didn't you follow up with them? Why didn't you say, hey, I'm meeting with the insured on the 13th. I need to have this thing by the 11th. Like, please get it to me, or decline. I need to have something. Like, you just showed me that all you did was put together accord apps and loss runs, send it out to a few different carriers, waiting to see what happens. Your account manager is just like checking to see when quotes have come in. You schedule an appointment. If quotes aren't in, too bad. And then like the insured stuck with that. And my typical thought is like, I can hire homeless people to do that. Like, you showed me nothing from that standpoint. So I'm looking for not just merely expertise, but I'm looking for diligence, right? Diligence. Are you willing to go the extra mile? Because if you are, I can work with that. Like I would say about 60% of my clients don't want to leave their agent. They like their agent. They just don't know if they can
I got to
trust their
speak
agent,
to something on this,
right?
because it ties into
Go
what
ahead.
we said
Let's hear it.
before.
Yeah.
My thought is that if you are more of a generalist agent, there is an extremely high chance you probably aren't doing those things, because it's very time consuming, let's be real, to get the marketing summary, but also make sure following up with the carrier underwriters, making sure they actually give a proposal,
100%.
sharing that proposal with the current carrier to help with the negotiation. It's a lot of work. And if you're a generalist with thousands of clients, you might be spread too thin to do all of that. Yeah.
They likely are, aren't they? And like, they don't usually know which carriers are really competitive out there for that class of business. If you're doing a janitorial today, you're doing a painting subcontractor later this afternoon, you got a furniture store, and then you got a dynamite manufacturer. Like, you just don't know who's writing what. And so you really have no idea if you even have the right carriers.
Yeah.
Man, they must really just love that initial call.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say it's kind of a joke, because most of the people that I kind of work with are insurance agents, where I kind of teach them and train them. And I'm a chief sales officer on a fractional basis with a number of different agencies. So I kind of work with lots of agencies. It's only happened a few times where the insured happened to be with an agent that I know. Right. And so like, or at least like even a client of mine. So I always have to go back with disclosure and say, hey, your current agent, I trained your current agent on how to sell, so it's like kind of it's sort of a weird discussion, but I'm like, hey, if you guys are cool with it, like we're going to work it. And sometimes I just work behind the scenes. So I'd say maybe about 30-40% of my clients hire me, but they don't want me talking to their agent because they kind of like their agent. They don't want to ruin the relationship. So I'm behind the scenes. The agent doesn't even know I'm there, but I'm telling the insured, do this. And then I put together an email and say, copy and paste this to them, ask them for this, put it here. So they're getting the information, even though they don't realize that I'm a part of it. And that tends to work out pretty good.
I know we got to wrap this up. I could keep going
all
day long. This has been really good.
We're gonna have to have a part 2.
For sure. One like just comment or reaction I'd like you to expand on a little bit is just sharing to the listeners of the true competitive advantage we have in the position we are to be independent agencies and not have the red tape that you were talking about. Could you just expand from all your experience of being at the smaller shop to going to the big one, saying it was a great experience, but I never do it again, to now being a consultant in this space, just highlighting for us what you mean by the red tape that we don't have, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well, you wouldn't know this unless you work for a bigger agency. But when you go to work for a bigger agency, you realize that there's nothing behind the curtain. They just don't have any extra services for the most part. So, and like, let's say, for example, one agency, like I'll use Gallagher as an example because I work there, but they're all kind of like this: Aon, Brown, Hub, everything. Let's say I'm in Nashville. Let's say the Nashville office where I work doesn't have any like extra services. It's just me and my account manager or whatever. But maybe the Knoxville, Tennessee office has workers' compensation claims managers. And so they can kind of work on some of those claims. Well, I don't get to use them because that's a different profit center. And they don't share their services with me because that Knoxville office is paying them. And so even though I work for a great company and they've got like different services, I don't have access to any of those services. And the only way that I would get is if I gave up 50% of my commission to do that, and nobody does that. So you just kind of hope you get it after all said and done. So one of the things that's really legit about larger agencies is that when you kind of pull back the curtain, there's nothing there. And most of them today, just because of like merger acquisition, they were smaller agencies who simply just got bought, and now they're under the umbrella of a larger company. And all that really did was create a lot more red tape. So I truly believe that being an independent agency, small to medium size, you actually make a whole lot more money, because I only got paid like 20% renewal at the first shop I was at. I think 25% renewal, with Gallagher, but they only paid me on certain accounts over a certain size. We're like, you know what? If you're just at a kind of small to medium size, your commission split is probably going to be a lot better than that. You're going to keep it. As an agency owner, you can write stuff and keep 100%. Like, there's no reason why you can't make more money than most of the producers, even working at the big shops. It's just, that's the reality of it. Like, it literally is 100% true. I have clients at these larger agencies. The largest one, Marsh, I had a Marsh agent hire me for sales training. And first thing he said to me was like, I just can't think of why anybody would want to buy insurance from me. We just don't have anything special. I said, ain't it the truth, brother? You got a big name on your agency, but that's about it. It might get you through a door, but they will sniff out real quick that you don't really have much. Yeah. And it sort of is what it is. So I would say that you picked the right thing, independent agency. You chose the right business. You chose the right model. Now you just have to pick the right types of industries to go after in order to get the result that you want for your agency.
To speak on that, Charles, right? I'm actually in the process now of working on, it's about a $40,000 revenue janitorial account. And I sat down with them, great owner, was willing to share all the policies, did all the Wedge questions, had my timeline of services, did the AOR talk. And
then they said, hey, will you meet with my friend Charles? He wants to talk to you.
And
consultant guy here.
And the appointment went great. They wouldn't do the AOR on the spot for the current policies. The broker who does all their insurance now does all their personal lines as well. I bring this up because they were with Hub the year prior, and now they're with like an independent, smaller, family-owned agency. And I asked them, I said, oh, why did, I'm just curious, why did you, switch from this big broker to, and they said there wasn't any, like, I got a little bit of a better price, and I got to bundle it with my carrier, with my agent who does personal lines. The services weren't any different. And I'm like, oh, wow.
No, I mean, process.
Yeah.
That's it, changing vehicles.
Yeah, but I just wasn't expecting that answer. From the outside in, I'm like, yes.
What's that mindset?
Exactly. I'm thinking, wow, big alphabet shop. They probably had claims managers come in and all this stuff, and no. So.
Yeah.
Man, this was good, Charles.
You're gonna get it. Janitorial is good business. I actually wrote a bunch of that. It's good business.
Thank you. And
thanks so much for spending the time. We're definitely going to have to do a part 2 here.
For sure.
There's a few more questions that we didn't get to. But just where can people find out about the consulting stuff? Like what's the program look like? And just give a quick pitch for that.
Well, I'll tell you, the name of my company is Permission Network Insurance Agency, LLC. Go to permissiongroup.com. That's my agency website, permissiongroup.com. And there's some information about it. You'll see both the consulting and you'll see the sales training. I actually do a new producer school as well. So I have a week-long producer school. I do serve as chief sales officer for a number of different insurance agencies around the United States and Canada. And I actually love working with small agencies because I feel like you can turn the rudder a lot quicker. And so we can get a lot more done, which is a lot more fun than when we're kind of creating everything from start to finish. But LinkedIn, that's where I spend most of my time working with insurance agents. And then permissiongroup.com.
Thanks again. We got a few announcements real quick before we wrap up, everybody. So as we talked about in the last episode, the Scratch Agency Podcast Meetup is back July 30th in New York City. As the time that we're recording this, I think we are more than halfway full. So we are closing it at 30 people, 30 agency owners in the room, scratchagencynyc.com. Go check that out. Reach out to us if you have any other questions. One last housekeeping. We are moving the community from the Telegram group that we have to a private Facebook group. It's going to be a lot easier for holding our files and all the communications. We've had that Telegram group that Shawn just put together at 4:00 in the morning one day, and it just grew to almost 90 people, and it was not expected, but this is going to be much better. So if you're in that Telegram group, we posted it. It's pinned there. Go to the private Facebook group, get in there, and it'll be a lot easier for all our conversations. Charles, thanks again for spending the time with us. We really do appreciate it today. Everybody, thanks for listening to another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. Most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.